Okay, welcome to the local storage option for the web app mini project that we're doing. This is the code for it. It's a single web file. It's an HTML file. It's got a few functions in it. It's got all those functions, the ones that are there, deal with local storage and how to use it in order to accomplish what we're doing with this web page, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. It's got, of course, a body to it. It's got a few buttons on that web page and a couple of graphical parts that work with the web page. Okay, so here's what it looks like right here. This is how it initializes, and the functionality works like this. You just click on the Move Boat Right button and it moves the boat to the right. That's the functionality. Now that's the surface of the functionality. That's what it looks like. Okay, now the interesting thing, and the thing I want you to learn from with this, is that when the web page is refreshed, the web page remembers where this boat's supposed to be. If this page were closed and opened back up, the web page would remember this is where the boat is supposed to be. Okay, now that's the unique thing that we're dealing with in this particular little file, this little mini project. Okay, most web pages forget where all the data associated with any variables or properties in the web page. HTTP is the protocol that web pages work with, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and that is considered to be what's called a stateless protocol. It does not have any memory, does not remember its data, any of its data for its properties within the web page, whether they're JavaScript properties or CSS properties or whatever. It doesn't remember them, and that's a safety feature for the browser. Browsers are trusted, they're considered safe, and people like them because they kind of forget about all this, whatever was in them, financial information or whatever else was in them, as you go from page to page to page. You would not want other web pages being able to somehow access data that you just typed in to websites prior in your browsing, where you typed in your bank account number or something. Okay, so this is a safety feature, but there are things that we can do that allow us, in the context of the browser forgetting data, and that will help us to build web pages and applications and mobile apps and progressive web apps that will remember information about a web page. Okay, and it helps the user. It's used heavily for preferences, to personalize web pages, to remember game information about a user, to remember scores, to remember if you have an account with something, a site like Amazon, you can log in, and because of a mechanism either like local storage or some other mechanism, traditionally this has been done with cookies, and because of cookies you would have been able to see your preferences for that web page, for say Amazon.com, maybe what was left in your cart, maybe a list of items that you put in that list. It might remember things like that are super handy for users. Users don't really want a web page that's completely non-personalized. They just want a safe version of that web page, and cookies and now local storage have given us the ability to do this. And cookies are kind of an old system. They will save information. A cookie is a little text file that goes into storage on a user's hard drive, and it will save named little variables in text form in that file that might contain maybe your shopping cart contents, maybe some items that you want to your web page to remember, like what color you want your text to be on your web page, or if you like bold text or not bold text on a certain web page or something. Okay, for preferences. So cookies have commonly been used, and they're commonly used to personalize web pages and to remember login information once you're logged in, what your settings are, okay, what your preferences are, or other things that are useful. And local storage is another way to do this. Local storage does not, it is a memory area in inside the browser memory that is not as separate or outside of the bounds or the environment of the browser itself as cookies are. So when you save something into local storage, it stays in with the memory of the browser. And it's a little different when you're offline and you're not in a browser. You can still see your cookies. You can go in, if you know where to go and you find them, you can see what those cookies contain about you. That is tougher to do with local storage. It's internalized into the browser. There's probably a way to get in and see those things, but I think it's a little easier to use with JavaScript and just to simply write a few variables to the local storage area. Okay, so that's what's going on with this. It will remember this, and we want to look at the criteria now and see what it is that we're supposed to be doing. Okay, so the first thing is you'll notice you've got a blue bar. You need blue bars. I want to make a square for the blue bars to travel of blue bars for the boat to travel on. So I want of course this bar. Then I want a vertical bar going down this way, another horizontal bar going back across this way, and then a vertical bar going up to where the boat originally started from. So you should have a big square on here. I'm looking for a total of 4 divs to make that bar. You could do it with one div and a big fat border, a big thick border if you want to, but I'm really looking for, at this point, just to keep it simple, 4 divs across here. Okay, so that's part 1. Okay, second item. This boat needs to travel across the page, down the page, back across the page, and then up the page to where it started from. So I need the boat to travel on those blue bars. Now you do not need to write any code necessarily that restricts traveling off of the bar. That's going to take quite a bit of hit testing or overlap checking on items in your web page. We don't have to do that for this. I just want to be able to make the boat move and visually see bars across here that'll make a square. Okay, so that's something to set up. Let's take a look at the next a little bit more of that criteria. Part 2, I need methods that will move the boat. Okay, not only across but down and back across and up. So you're going to need code that will obviously you have this code, and we'll look at that in just a second. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for with that. This page remembers where the boat is horizontally. Right now it does not have a variable in local storage that corresponds to the vertical position. So the local storage is storing where this boat is currently from the left. That's the left property in CSS. Okay, from the left of the page, where is this boat positioned? You're going to need one from the top of the page. Where is this boat positioned? Okay, so going back to the criteria, you need to plug that in to remember where that position is going to be. Okay, now let's look at the code for this, and it is the functions are here. Okay. And this first function, initialize game, is going to position the boat initially at the opening of the page. Okay, it is called from the onload attribute of the body tag, and it will do a few things right here. I'm going to explain that in just a bit. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. The local storage, if the horizontal boat position right here exists, that's what this is asking. If local storage horizontal boat position exists, if this exists, sort of a implied condition, okay, then it's going to find it. It's going to get the value out of that, and that'll be the left hand position. How far from the left is the boat? Okay, and then it will store that. It will apply that to the boat and position the boat. Okay, if it does not exist, else, if or else, then it's just going to give it the default position of 10 pixels from the left, and that's where it's going to start. Okay, so this takes care of getting the page initialized. Either it's a refresh of a previous opening of the page, and the boat does exist somewhere already, say at 120 pixels, and it'll find that and position it right here, style.left, or it will just, if it's the first time that the file has ever been opened on that computer, it will position it at 10 pixels. Okay, all right, so that's what's going on right there. Now, this is where the dynamic part comes in, okay, that we can see move item from left. When you click the button, you click the on click or the move boat right button. That's a trigger. The on click is a trigger. It fires this this handler, move item from left, and you can see these statements as they're processed. Okay, the first one's going to be to position the boat 10 pixels from where it currently is. So it gets its current position right here with the offset left property. That's a read property. It reads from the div ID what's the offset left position, and it adds 10 pixels to it. Okay, then it updates the P, and the P is a variable. It's a global variable. It's a position. Okay, stands for position, and it updates that P with the new position, which now is with the plus 10 pixels. Okay, so that P keeps getting updated, and local storage is now updated. Okay, so I want to talk about that a little bit. Let me get you through this P variable first, and then I'm going to talk about this local storage. You are going to need another global variable up here. This P is for the horizontal position. It's from the left. You're going to need another variable, probably something like VP, or vertical position. Okay, and you'll need to access that, and you'll have a function move item from top. Okay, and that'll be a separate function, and you'll have to deal with your VP at that point. Okay, I'm not going to include that in this file. You'll have to figure out to make sure you do that. Okay, all right. So in here, for local storage, let's get this pretty straight. Okay, local storage. When you store something in local storage, it's going to have to take it needs a name for the variable. You got to give it a name. It's got to be a string. It's got to be inside quotes, and then it's going to put the second thing that goes in there is the value. So whatever you want it to be. Okay, local storage. We are only going to deal with these two built-in functions for local storage: set item and get. Let me find it. Get item, right there. Okay. Get item. You just have to call the name of the item you want to get, and it will return to you the value. Set item. You've got to give it the name of the variable and a value separated by a comma. That value right there is going to get turned into a string, no matter what. Okay, local storage only deals with strings. It does not take anything in that's actually a number or any other type of object in JavaScript. It turns everything into a string. Okay, so if you had a local storage variable that you needed to do calculations with, and you were going to remember those numbers so you could save some sort of calculations maybe that somebody wanted to save in a sophisticated calculator, okay, then you have to parse those strings out into integers or numbers, okay, and there's a function parseInt to do that with, to get a string turned into a number for you. We're not doing that for this. We don't need to. When we position our boat and we use style.left, the JavaScript engine will automatically parse out. It sees this as a string, and it will automatically parse out the number and position it the way it's supposed to. Okay, just a little bit more about this. Let's go back to the criteria. Okay, and let's finish up here. You need to make sure that you need a vertical function that'll move this. Okay, you're going to need to put in other buttons to move the boat to up and down and to the left. Okay, and then you'll need to call other functions. You'll need probably 3 other functions here instead of just move item from left. You might want to say move item to left when it's moving to the left. This one's going to move to the right. You might want to have an option in here where you're going to have to subtract 10 pixels to make it come back the other way, closer to the edge. Okay, so you can do that in 1 or 2 ways. You can make a second function. Okay, move item to left instead of from left, and that function would go right here. Or you can put if statements in here, and you could send a parameter here, left or right, and you could check for is it left or right, and then execute appropriate code. You would have to put the conditions in here. I think that's probably a little less straightforward than just having separate functions for each direction. Okay, all right. So that's a little bit about that. Let's talk about the last criteria for the over the 90. Okay, this is about resetting the boat. Okay, figure out how to make the boat go back to its starting point by just clicking the reset boat button and not having to refresh the page. Right now, this boat, if I set the reset button, it does reset the variable inside local storage back to 10. Okay, it's left position back to 10. What's the name of that variable? It is horizontal boat position. It sets it back to 10. Okay, but it doesn't show it. I have to now refresh the page again, and because the boat runs this initialize game function from the onload attribute, okay, in the body tag, it finds that 10 again, and it positions the boat appropriately. Okay, so that's how it resets. I want it to reset just by clicking the reset button. So I want you to be able to I've already got the function set up right here. Okay, reset item. It does reset the internal local storage variable, but it doesn't reset the visual location, the display location of the boat. You need to put a line of code right there that'll do that. It's going to be something like this right here, or even this right here, very much like that right there. Okay, but you're going to need to actually if you just call this function inside of here, that would probably do it. Okay, that's already set up to do that for you. Okay, so I think you just call this function from here, and I think you get a reset. All right, let's see if it works. I'm going to see if it works. Maybe it will. Okay, I don't think that. Did I refresh it? I think I refreshed it. Yeah, it works. Okay, so if I move the boat way out here and reset the boat, it snaps it back to the beginning. So that does work. Let's get that out of there because I'm not going to give that to you. You have to watch the video to get that. Okay, so there we go. All right, let's take a look at the second part of the over 90. All right, I need reset positions, reset buttons for all the positions on the vertical bar. So in your for your right hand side, I want a reset button that resets the boat right there at the top of that, right in there, that area for the top of that side. In fact, let's just put it in the very corner. Okay, same thing for one down here and one down here as well as here. So you might say reset boat top right, reset boat bottom right, reset boat bottom left, and you might rename this reset boat top left. I don't really care if you do that or not. Okay, but I'm gonna need more buttons across here. Okay, so that's the high A for that. All right, it's a little bit tougher. You're going to need a separate set of functions to go with your different buttons. See, this one calls reset item. That's the reset boat button. Okay, all right, so I think that pretty much covers it. Local storage is pretty cool. It really has some nice uses. The big thing to remember is that you can create any variable name you want to, use it, and then assign it a value, and you could create very complex things with this. that remember what's going on, okay, for games, activities, dynamic functioning of applications. Okay, so that's that.